This is Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi. Here now, Tony Bruschi.
You know, there's something eerie about hearing a killer described in the most mundane of terms. The guy who shows up late for a hair appointment. The guy who makes small talk about, of all things, cats. The guy who compliments your teenage daughter's sports photo on your styling station. Nothing out of line, just a little off, but not off enough to raise an alarm. Not enough to stop you from grabbing your shears and making him look good and not plunging them directly into the back of his neck. Because at the time, you're not looking for danger. You're just trying to do your job. Today, we're talking with a woman named Katie, a stylist who cut Andrew McGann's hair several times in the months leading up to the double homicide at Devil's Den. McGann didn't just walk into her salon off the street. He was referred, polite, quiet, and came for Brazilian blowouts, of all things. And like a lot of stylists will tell you, after a few hours in the chair, even the quiet ones start to talk. In this conversation, Katie walks us through what she saw, what stood out, what didn't, and what she now can't unsee in hindsight. From their first meeting in early 2024, all the way to the last unexpected pop-in just before spring break. She gives us a rare look at McGann's public mask, the version of him that slipped under every radar. She shares a moment that turned chilling in retrospect, when he lingered a little too long at the photo of her daughter, when he showed up unannounced at night, when his mugshot later flashed across her phone screen, confirming the gut drop she didn't even know was coming. But what's even more telling than the red flags are the beige ones, the quiet details that didn't register until it was too late. Because McGann didn't look like a monster. He looked like a guy trying to squeeze in a trim. And Katie, like so many others in his orbit, had no idea who she was really talking to. So what does it feel like when the man in your chair becomes the man in the headlines? Let's hear it directly from Katie. Katie, let's get back into this and start from the beginning. How did you first meet Andrew McGann? Katie, it's not often that we're talking about a killer and we're getting so much information from his hairstylists. I've already talked to the stylist here in Northwest Arkansas in Fayetteville that was doing his hair as he was being arrested. But you have a little more insight into the personality of this man pre any of this going down. Take me back in time. I mean, how long have you known him? And give me your first impressions and memories of this man.
So I first did his hair in February of 24. Mm-hmm. So a little over, a year and a half ago, maybe. Yeah. And he was referred to me. So I took him on, no problem. He wanted a Brazilian blowout and I had no problem doing that. I had him send me some selfies so I would know what I was working with, because he was actually the first guy that I would be doing a Brazilian blowout on. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he came in and I did that service, and I was with him for probably about that. It's a little bit of a lengthy service. So 2.5, 3 hours that first time I did his hair, and everything went totally fine. He was quiet. I definitely had to do the majority of the talking at first to kind of pull, some stuff out of him. Mm-hmm. But he answered all my questions and we got super chatty, and it was a normal appointment. Yeah.
I mean, back when I was getting my hair done, which has been a century or so, or a decade, I used, to go, it turned into like a therapy session almost by the time you're done getting your hair done.
I always joke that we should retire with some sort of certificate, some therapy.
Yeah. How about a dual thing where it's a salon and you're all licensed counselors? I think that would be a great idea.
I mean, we'd kill it. We would kill it.
But so yeah, I mean, just normal questions. Do you remember even what you asked him? Because I mean, if it's just a normal day, you see tons of people. It's got to be, not that easy.
So actually, the first question I asked him was why his selfies were so angry looking.
Okay.
Like I asked him for pictures. He sent me the pictures. The majority were selfies. I think one was probably like a school ID or something, where he was teaching. And he just looked so angry. And so I joked with him. I was like, my man, like, why are we looking so mad, in our pictures? And he was like, oh, I just don't photograph well. And I was like, okay, just kind of left it at that. But it was very like furrowed brow and like pursed lips and just angry looking. And then we just kind of moved on from there. But he answered all of my questions. I mean, we talked about, I have two kids. They're teenagers, and I have a picture of them on my station in their gear for the sport that they play. And so I do remember him specifically asking many more questions about my daughter and the sport she plays. And it's a photo of my daughter and son together. And he was definitely much more, I wouldn't say interested. I don't know about that. But I mean, he thought that it was really freaking awesome that my daughter plays the sport that she plays, and she's got to be a badass and, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, yep. Yep, she definitely is. So we talked a lot about that. And he mentioned he really likes cats, more of a cat person than a dog person. And I asked if he had a wife, a girlfriend, any kids, and no to all of those questions. And I mean, it was a pretty typical appointment. Yeah.
Did the conversation of work come up? Like, what does he do? And, how long have you been here? That sort of stuff?
Yeah. So I know his family all lives in the area, and he has been there for quite a while. Even though he started teaching in Texas, I think coming to Oklahoma was kind of more of like home base. Yeah, probably. And he did talk about teaching at Broken Arrow, which is where I live and the district that my kids would go to school in. They don't go to school there. Yeah. But I obviously have, a ton of family and friends and very close ties with the elementary that he was teaching at. And so he told me a lot about his running club that he had started and that he was a very avid runner. And he had actually come to his appointment that night directly from the running club that he was doing there with the kids.
What did you learn, maybe even post some of this? I'm sure a lot of questions started coming up about, okay, well, when he was around here, what do we know about him? You said you had some friends that teach over there. Did you hear anything from them about what he was like while teaching in Broken Arrow?
So my niece, actually, her best friend was in his classroom in Broken Arrow. And I was talking to her about this situation, obviously, of course, after everything had come out. And she was telling me that he would say some interesting comments to a lot of the girls in the classroom. And apparently most of them were in Spanish, which I don't think a lot of the fifth grade girls knew a lot of Spanish. And one of the comments that he would say directly to her best friend was translated to like hot, sexy, spicy monkey or something. Like it was a very strange comment to be making to fifth grade girls. But the people that I know that directly interacted with him in the school always said he was a little bit quiet, a little standoffish. A little different, definitely not your typical like late 20s, year old, but nothing that they felt that they had witnessed that was reportable of any kind.
Yeah. I mean, were you aware of anybody report? Because as far as I know, the records show that there wasn't, at least publicly, any sort of reporting from students or parents going, what's up with this guy?
Not in Oklahoma. Not that I know of. Yeah. I know that Texas, that there was some people that were reporting that. And I think he was allowed to voluntarily resign. Yeah, he was. Texas, so nothing got reported after that. I don't think in Broken Arrow or Sand Springs here, because he came from Texas, started here at Broken Arrow, went to Sand Springs, which is wild to me because Broken Arrow is, I'm pretty sure, the biggest school district in the whole state of Oklahoma. So to go from there to Sand Springs, which is very small, I thought was a kind of an interesting switch
Yeah.
between those two. But he did tell me at one of his appointments that he was planning on eventually getting to Arkansas because they pay a decent amount more for teachers there. So it wasn't surprising to me that he was going to move on to Arkansas at some point.
Where it might not have always been disciplinary reports or complaints, it was just more bouncing around at the beginning of one's career to get more money. But obviously in Texas, we know a little bit different. And we keep saying that, I believe in Texas, he tried to go to, again, another district, and then he lasted 3 days, then bounced back into Oklahoma to continue teaching there. When you found out about this, let me ask you that, like, what was it like? Where were you? What happened when you realized, oh, the guy that did this is that guy?
Yeah. So I had a client come in. I was in Vegas, and I flew in from Vegas. My flight was canceled, delayed, the whole, shebang. It was awful. So I literally landed Monday at home, hit the ground running. And my first client back to work was telling me, like, oh my gosh, have you heard about, this Devil's Den, like, murder stuff, and all of this. And I'm like, well, I literally just, got back in town, had a wild time in Vegas, great time, and I'm just kind of getting back into it. And she was like, you need to look into it, because I am admittedly a lover of all things true crime, if that doesn't make me sound like a creep. And so I was like, yeah, I'm going to check it out. Well, I kind of forgot about it after that, had a super busy week. Then on Thursday, I'm at the salon and I'm waiting on a client, and I just open Facebook and I'm just, scrolling, giving my phone a scroll. And here's the story reported by one of our local news stations. And so I was like, oh, I need to catch up on this. This is what my client was telling me about. And I click on it and start to scroll through the story, and up pops his booking photo. And I was just like, what the heck is going on? Like, surely that is not him. So then I kind of do a quick scan of the article and see his name. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, that is definitely, because when my client on Monday was telling me about it, he hadn't been caught yet. So he was still, like, this murderer is on the loose and, all of these things. And then to fast forward to Thursday, and I'm just scrolling and, pop into this story, and holy crap, there is my client.
Yeah.
It was wild. Like, I never in a million years, like, the time I spent with him was not a ton of time.
Yeah.
I saw him, I think, 4 times. From February of 24 through the last time was about spring break-ish this year.
Yeah.
But never in a million years did I ever think that would be anybody I'd be seeing in a situation like this.
I'm guessing you've been doing this for a little while.
I have.
So I'm going to guess over that course of time, you've had some creepy folks that have come and sat in that chair. Yeah. And, you kind of like, I'm uncomfortable. This is weird. Would you have put him in that category until after you found all this out?
No. Every time I did his hair, it was fairly late at night. I was at the salon by myself, just the two of us, but because he was a referral, I would never had a question. He never did anything with me or in my presence to make me think that, this is the only, I will say, the last appointment I had with him, which actually wasn't even an appointment. He did not have an appointment scheduled, and he showed up to the salon around spring break of this year. And I always lock the door because, that's what we do. And I was the only one in there, and I was letting my last client of the night out. And it was probably about 8:30 at night. And as we walked to the door to unlock it for me to let her out, he came like rushing up to the door. And I was like startled, and my client was like, whoa. And I was like, oh, Andrew, like, hey, what's going on, man? And he was like, oh, I was just in the area and thought I'd, see if you could squeeze me in. And I'm like, okie dokie. Well, it is 8:30 at night, and this was my last client. So I guess come on in. And so I cut his hair, and all was well. And that was it. That was the last time I saw him. But it was interesting because he's always had an appointment. And anybody who knows me and has come to me for any amount of time, like, it's a very appointment-based business. My salon is absolutely not a walk-in salon. We're all very well established, so nobody's sitting around just waiting for anybody to stroll through the door. So it was interesting.
But other than that, just, kind of a fairly normal seeming guy, angry in pictures, but, there's a lot of guys that are angry looking in pictures. But
right. He was very particular about his hair. So the fact that he had to go to jail with half a haircut, because it's instant karma right out the gate. Like,
I think
it's nowhere near enough karma.
No. And had the smock. He should just be required now to wear the smock as well for the rest of his life.
Show that in court.
Katie, thank you so much for talking with us today and giving us your story on this. Another slice of that life that we're trying to understand.
Mm-hmm.
There's something deeply unsettling about how normal it all felt until it didn't. That's the part that lingers after this conversation with Katie. You're left with this uncomfortable truth that someone capable of what McGann allegedly did could just as easily sit in a salon chair for 3 hours, smile politely, and ask about your daughter's soccer game. And that, until the moment it all unravels, they look just like everybody else. What Katie shared wasn't about some smoking gun or twisted confession. It was about the slow burn of recognition, the subtle shift that happens when the name you casually know becomes the one attached to a mugshot, a press release, a double homicide. She didn't realize she was cutting the hair of a man who'd later be arrested in a smock halfway through a haircut. That's the kind of surreal detail that sticks with you. The fact that he was arrested mid-trim, as if even justice interrupted his vanity. Katie gave us a rare window into that before space, the space that so many people now want to scrutinize. Could someone have known? Should someone have reported something? But here's the truth. Most of us don't live with that level of suspicion. Most of us trust that if someone is standing in front of kids in a classroom, they've been vetted. Most of us assume a guy asking for a haircut isn't plotting something unthinkable. But clearly in this case, the system missed it, and so did nearly everyone around him. So where does that leave us? Leaves us with a hard look at how predators like McGann can navigate public life, bouncing from school to school, salon to salon, wearing the face of a man who blends in just well enough until he doesn't. And it leaves us grateful for people like Katie, willing to come forward and share what they saw, not because they had all the answers, but because they have a piece of a puzzle. And right now, every piece matters. Thank you to Katie for coming on and sharing her experience. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section on YouTube. If you're not there already, just search Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi to get in on that. And press subscribe while you're there. Press subscribe on the podcast if that's where you're listening to us. If you haven't found us on the podcast platform but are on YouTube, do that same search wherever you get podcasts. Hidden Killers with Tony Bruschi, and you can subscribe there and take us wherever you go. I want to know your thoughts, though, in the comments. Until next time, my name is Tony Bruschi. We'll talk again real soon.
Want more on this case and others? Then press subscribe now and don't miss a moment of true crime coverage from Tony Bruschi and the Hidden Killers podcast.